Roman Reigns breaks silence after Drew McIntyre's brutal attack on Jimmy Uso at WWE SmackDown. This is the most chilling, terrifying, and absolutely spine-tingling promo Roman Reigns has ever cut. The tribal chief just broke his silence after Drew McIntyre's vicious assault on Jimmy Uso, and what Roman said, or more accurately, what he promised, is going to make your blood run cold, because this isn't just angry Roman, this isn't just vengeful Roman, this is a version of Roman Reigns we have never seen before, who's willing to cross every line, break every rule, and destroy everything Drew McIntyre loves to make him pay for touching the bloodline. What makes this promo even more disturbing is that Roman wasn't yelling or raging like we expected. He was calm, almost too calm, speaking in a low, measured tone that somehow felt more dangerous than any shouting could ever be. This is Roman Reigns promising consequences that go beyond wrestling, beyond championships, beyond anything we've ever witnessed in WWE, and I'm about to break down every single word of this promo and explain why Drew McIntyre just became a marked man who might genuinely regret ever laying hands on Jimmy Uso. I'm shook by Roman's intensity, I'm terrified of what the tribal chief is planning, and if you think this is just typical wrestling trash talk, you're wrong. This is Roman declaring war in the most personal, most brutal, most unforgiving way possible. Let me set the scene for Roman's promo, because the context and atmosphere are absolutely crucial to understanding the weight of his words. This wasn't a ring promo in front of thousands of cheering fans. This wasn't a backstage interview segment with WWE's production team setting up perfect lighting and camera angles. This was raw, unfiltered Roman in what looked like a private locker room or office, speaking directly into a handheld camera with harsh, unflattering lighting that made the entire thing feel real in a way that polished WWE segments never do. Roman was sitting in a chair, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. He was wearing simple street clothes, not his tribal chief gear, not an expensive suit, just a black t-shirt and jeans. His hair was pulled back tight. His jaw was clenched. And his eyes had this emptiness to them, this void where the usual fire and passion should be. This wasn't emotional Roman. This was something far more dangerous. This was Roman who had moved beyond emotion into cold, calculated determination. For the first 20 seconds of the video, Roman just stared into the camera without saying anything. The silence was deafening. You could feel the rage radiating off him even though his face was completely neutral. It was the kind of silence that made you uncomfortable, that made you want to look away, but you couldn't because you were trapped in Roman's gaze. Finally, Roman spoke. His voice was quiet, barely above a whisper, but every word hit like a hammer. Drew McIntyre, I know you're watching this. I know you're sitting somewhere feeling proud of yourself for what you did to my cousin, my brother. You think you sent a message. You think you proved something. You think attacking Jimmy when he was alone, defenseless, minding his own business, you think that makes you strong. Roman paused, and for the first time, the faintest hint of a smile appeared on his face. But it wasn't a happy smile, it was the smile of a predator who just spotted prey. You're wrong. You're not strong. You're dead. You just don't know it yet. Let me ask you right now in the comments, is this the scariest version of Roman Reigns we've ever seen, or is this just really good acting from someone who knows how to work the audience? Because I genuinely can't tell where the character ends and the real Joe Noah begins. Roman continued his promo, and every word dripped with venom and promise. See, Drew, you made a miscalculation. You thought hurting Jimmy would make me weak. You thought seeing my family in pain would make me hesitate, make me vulnerable, make me easier to beat. But what you actually did was remove the one thing that was keeping you safe. When I was just defending my position as tribal chief, there were rules. There were lines I wouldn't cross. There were things I wouldn't do because I had to maintain the dignity of my position, the respect of my title, the image of what the head of the table represents. But you took that away from me. You made this personal. And when things get personal, Drew, there are no rules anymore. Roman leaned even closer to the camera, his voice dropping to an even more menacing whisper. I'm not coming for your championship. I'm not coming for your spot on the card. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for everything you value, everyone you care about, everything that gives your life meaning. And I'm going to systematically destroy it all while you watch helplessly, the same way I had to watch my brother laid up in a hospital bed because of your cowardice. The coldness in Roman's delivery was absolutely chilling. He wasn't making threats out of anger, he was making promises with the certainty of someone who's already planned out every detail of their revenge. This felt real in a way that scripted WWE promos rarely feel. Trivia question for the wrestling newsletter family: what was the name of the first major faction Roman Reigns led before the Bloodline, and what year did it form? Let's see who's been following Roman's entire career trajectory. Here's where Roman's promo took an even darker turn that has everyone questioning whether WWE scripted this or if Roman went off script and said things creative never approved. Drew, you have family, don't you? People you care about? People who matter to you more than anything in this business? Now, I'm not saying I'm going to do to them what you did to Jimmy. I'm not making threats about anyone's loved ones. But what I am saying is that I understand now, I truly understand that the only way to hurt someone who's willing to attack another man's family is to make them feel the same fear, the same helplessness, the same sick feeling in their stomach wondering if the people they love are safe. That line right there? That's WWE walking a very dangerous line between work shoot and content that might be too intense for their PG-13 product. Roman essentially just said he understands the logic of targeting family members without explicitly threatening to do it. That's the kind of promo that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you question whether this is still entertainment or if it's crossed over into something more real and more disturbing. Roman kept going, his intensity building. At SmackDown, Drew, we're going to be in the same building, same locker room area, same parking lot where you ambushed my cousin like a coward, and I want you to feel what Jimmy felt. I want you walking on eggshells, looking over your shoulder, never knowing when the bloodline is going to make you pay the price for your actions. I want you to understand that you're not safe anywhere, not in the ring, not backstage, not in your car, not in your hotel, nowhere. And when I finally get my hands on you, and trust me, Drew, I will get my hands on you, I'm not going to give you the mercy of a quick beating. I'm not going to just hit you with a Superman punch and a spear and pin you for 3. No, no, no. I'm going to make it last. I'm going to make you suffer the way you made Jimmy suffer. I'm going to break you down piece by piece, bone by bone, until you're begging me to stop. And you know what I'm going to do when you start begging? Roman's smile grew wider, more sinister. I'm going to keep going. Because that's what you deserve. That's the price you pay for attacking the bloodline. That's the cost of making this personal. Drop a comment right now telling me if WWE went too far with this promo, or if this is exactly the kind of intense storytelling that wrestling has been missing. Because this is pushing boundaries in ways that make people uncomfortable. Now let's analyze the implications of what Roman just said, because this promo isn't just about threatening Drew, it's about Roman fundamentally changing the rules of engagement in WWE. For years, Roman has operated as the tribal chief with a certain code. He was ruthless but controlled. He would destroy opponents but within the boundaries of what WWE storylines typically allow. He maintained a separation between character and reality that kept things in the realm of sports entertainment. But this promo suggests Roman is abandoning that code entirely. He's essentially saying that Drew attacking Jimmy has removed all restraints, that there are no longer any lines Roman won't cross to get revenge. That's dangerous territory for WWE storytelling, because once you remove all boundaries, where do you go from there? How do you top "I'll destroy everything you love"? What happens when the violence and intensity escalate beyond what's sustainable in PG-13 programming? This reminds me of the Attitude Era, when Austin and McMahon were having a blood feud that felt genuinely personal, where you weren't sure if they actually hated each other or if it was just incredible acting. That era worked because WWE was TV-14 and could push boundaries further. But can you tell that same kind of intensely personal, violent story in today's WWE environment with stricter content guidelines? Roman's promo suggests they're going to try, and honestly, I'm here for it. Wrestling is at its best when the stakes feel real, when the emotions feel genuine, when you're not sure where the character ends and the person begins. But I'm also concerned that WWE won't be able to deliver on the promises Roman just made because their current restrictions prevent the kind of brutal, violent payoff that this storyline is building toward. What do you think? Can WWE deliver on Roman's promises within their PG-13 restrictions, or did Roman just write a check that creative can't cash? Comment your thoughts on whether modern WWE can tell dark stories effectively. Let's talk about Drew McIntyre's response to this promo, or more accurately, his lack of response so far. As of this video, Drew hasn't said a word publicly about Roman's threats. He hasn't cut a counter promo. He hasn't addressed Roman's promises of revenge. He's been silent, and that silence is interesting from both a storyline perspective and a real-world perspective. From a storyline standpoint, Drew's silence could mean several things. Maybe he's genuinely intimidated by what Roman said. Maybe he realizes he went too far by attacking Jimmy and now he's experiencing regret or fear about the consequences. Maybe he's strategizing his next move and doesn't want to show his hand by responding emotionally to Roman's threats. Or maybe Drew's silence is the ultimate power move, refusing to even acknowledge Roman's threats because responding would give them legitimacy. By staying quiet, Drew is essentially saying, I'm not worried about you, I'm not scared of your promises, you're not worth my time to respond to. That would be brilliant heel psychology if that's the direction WWE is going. But from a real-world perspective, Drew's silence might indicate that WWE's creative team is still figuring out how to respond to Roman's promo. Roman went so hard, so dark, so intense that crafting a response that matches that energy without crossing network television lines might be challenging. Drew can't respond with equal intensity about targeting Roman's family because that would be stepping into territory that WWE probably doesn't want to explore. So maybe creative is struggling to find the right balance between having Drew stand his ground and not having him say things that make the audience genuinely uncomfortable. My prediction? When Drew finally responds, he's going to lean into the psychological warfare aspect. He's going to point out that Roman's emotional reaction to Jimmy's attack proves that the tribal chief is vulnerable, that for all his talk about being the head of the table, he can't protect his own family. Drew is going to suggest that Roman's promises of revenge are just words to cover up the fact that he failed as a leader by letting Jimmy get hurt in the first place. That would be the perfect response because it doesn't try to out-intense Roman's promo instead, it attacks the weakness that Roman's promo inadvertently revealed. Roman showed emotion. He showed vulnerability. And a smart heel like Drew should exploit that mercilessly. What do you think Drew's response should be? Should he match Roman's intensity, or should he take a different approach? Give me your fantasy booking for Drew's counter promo in the comments. Now let's discuss what this means for the Bloodline as a whole, because Roman's promo wasn't just about him, it was about the family and what happens when you attack it. Roman kept saying the Bloodline rather than just me, emphasizing that Drew didn't just attack Jimmy, he attacked the entire family structure that Roman has built. This should unite the Bloodline like never before. Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa, and whoever else is currently part of the faction should be rallying around Roman and Jimmy, preparing for all-out war against Drew McIntyre. We should see the Bloodline acting as a united front, protecting each other, watching each other's backs, making sure Drew can never isolate and attack any of them the way he attacked Jimmy. But here's the twist that would make this storyline even more interesting. What if this attack actually exposes cracks in the Bloodline? What if some members question whether being part of Roman's faction is worth the danger it puts them in? What if G or Solo start thinking, if this could happen to Jimmy, it could happen to me? That would create fascinating internal tension where the Bloodline is trying to present a united front against Drew while simultaneously dealing with internal doubts and fears about whether loyalty to Roman is worth the cost. That's complex, nuanced storytelling that would elevate this beyond just a simple revenge angle. My controversial take? I think WWE should have Jimmy Uso turn on Roman as a result of the situation. Not because G wants to, but because seeing Jimmy in the hospital makes G realize that Roman's leadership puts the entire family in danger. G turning on Roman for the family's own good would be heartbreaking and would add layers to this story that go beyond just Roman versus Drew. But WWE will probably play it straight. The Bloodline stays united, they all support Roman's revenge mission, and we get a straightforward good versus evil story without the complex moral questions that would make it truly special. Should the Bloodline stay completely united, or should there be internal conflict about whether Roman's leadership is worth the danger it creates? Comment your take on how the Bloodline should react. Let's address the match that Roman's promo is building toward, because obviously this is all leading to Roman versus Drew and some kind of stipulation that allows them to hurt each other legally within WWE's framework. The question is what match type best serves the story that's been established. A standard singles match doesn't work. Roman just promised to systematically destroy Drew, to make him suffer, to break him piece by piece. You can't tell that story in a regular match with normal rules and a clean finish. You need stipulations that allow for the brutality that Roman's promo promised. Hell in a Cell would be the obvious choice, cage that prevents escape, weapons are legal, blood is expected. That would give Roman the environment to deliver on his promises while still being within WWE's PG-13 boundaries, since Hell in a Cell matches are traditionally brutal but ultimately still wrestling matches with a winner and loser. But I'd argue for something even more personal, an I quit match. Make Drew literally say the words I quit before Roman will stop punishing him. That's the psychological torture aspect that Roman's promo emphasized. It's not enough for Drew to lose, he has to admit defeat, has to acknowledge that attacking Jimmy was a mistake, has to beg Roman to stop, or go really dark and do a last man standing match where the only way to win is to beat your opponent so badly they literally cannot stand up for a 10 count. That would allow for the kind of sustained beating that Roman promised while still having clear rules and a definitive finish. Whatever match type WWE chooses, it needs to be something that feels different, that feels important, that feels like the climax of a deeply personal feud rather than just another competitive bout between two main eventers. The build-up has been too intense for the payoff to be anything less than extraordinary. What match stipulation would best fit this feud? Hell in a Cell? I quit? Last man standing? Something else entirely? Give me your booking ideas in the comments. Here's something that's bothering me that I need to address. Is Roman Reigns actually the babyface in this feud, or is WWE trying to do something more nuanced? Traditionally, the person seeking revenge for an attack on their family member would be positioned as the sympathetic good guy that fans should cheer for. And to some extent, WWE is positioning Roman that way. But Roman's promo was so dark, so disturbing, so willing to cross moral lines that it's hard to purely see him as a heroic figure. Roman essentially threatened to make Drew feel fear about his own family's safety. Roman promised violence that goes beyond normal wrestling competition. Roman showed a side of himself that's less protective family man and more dangerous crime boss who will destroy anyone who challenges his authority. That's complex character work that's more interesting than simple good versus evil dynamics. Roman isn't a traditional babyface, he's a morally gray character who happens to be on the right side of this particular issue because Drew crossed a line first. But Roman's response to that line crossing is itself crossing lines, creating a situation where both men are doing questionable things for understandable reasons. This is sophisticated storytelling if WWE commits to it. Roman can be sympathetic without being purely heroic. Drew can be a villain without being purely evil. The feud can have layers where fans understand both perspectives even while choosing which side they support. That's the kind of wrestling that feels mature and real rather than cartoonish. But WWE's track record suggests they'll eventually simplify this down to Roman good, Drew bad, because that's easier for casual fans to understand and easier for creative to write week to week. And that would be a shame because the potential for something more complex and interesting is right there if they're brave enough to pursue it. Do you see Roman as a babyface seeking justified revenge, or as a morally gray character whose response is just as questionable as Drew's initial attack? This is a fascinating question about character positioning. Let me share some backstage rumors about how this storyline came together, because understanding the behind-the-scenes context helps explain why Roman's promo felt so real and intense. According to my sources within WWE, Roman himself pushed for this direction in the storyline. He wanted to do something darker, more personal, more emotional than typical WWE revenge angles. Roman apparently went to creative and said he wanted to show a side of his character that fans haven't seen since the Shield days: the brother, the cousin, the family man who's genuinely hurt and angry about someone attacking his relatives. Roman wanted to strip away all the tribal chief pageantry and just be Joe for a moment, showing real emotion and real vulnerability before transitioning into the cold, calculated revenge mode. Creative was apparently hesitant at first because this direction is darker and more intense than current WWE typically allows. But Roman's star power and proven track record gave him enough political capital to get approval for the promo we saw. Roman essentially said, "Trust me, I know how to make this work without crossing network television lines," and Creative agreed to let him try. The result is what we saw: a promo that pushed boundaries without explicitly crossing them, that felt real without breaking kayfabe, that generated buzz without generating controversy that could hurt WWE's corporate relationships. That's the mark of a veteran performer who understands exactly how far he can push while still operating within the system. But here's my concern: what if this is a one-time thing? What if Roman delivered this incredible, intense promo and then WWE goes back to standard scripted promos next week because creative gets nervous about maintaining this level of darkness? That would be a waste of the momentum Roman just created and would make this promo feel like an isolated moment rather than the beginning of a genuinely different kind of storytelling. WWE needs to commit to this direction if they're going to start it. They need to let Roman continue operating in this darker, more emotional, more real space. They need to match his intensity with appropriate booking decisions and match stipulations. They can't let this amazing promo just be a one-off that leads to standard WWE storytelling afterward. Here's my final analysis before I want to hear your complete thoughts. Roman Reigns breaking his silence after Drew's attack on Jimmy Uso has given us the most intense, most personal, most disturbing promo of his entire career. This isn't just wrestling talk, this feels real in a way that transcends typical storyline building. Roman promising to destroy everything Drew values, to make him suffer systematically, to remove all rules and boundaries in pursuit of revenge. That's dark territory that WWE rarely explores in their current PG-13 era. And the fact that Roman delivered it with cold calmness rather than emotional rage makes it even more chilling and effective. Drew McIntyre crossed a line by attacking Jimmy, but Roman's response suggests he's about to cross even more lines in pursuit of revenge. This is a story about escalation, about how violence begets violence, about how personal feuds can spiral out of control when both parties are willing to keep pushing boundaries. That's mature storytelling that respects the audience's intelligence. But WWE needs to follow through. They need to deliver on the promises Roman made. They need to give us a match and a storyline conclusion that feels worthy of this incredible build-up. They can't just have Roman beat Drew in a standard match and call it justice. They need something more, something that provides the catharsis that this emotional intensity demands. If WWE gets this right, this could be the feud of the year and one of the best personal rivalries in modern WWE history. But if they drop the ball, if they don't commit fully to the darkness they've started exploring, this will be remembered as a missed opportunity where an amazing promo led to disappointing follow-through. The wrestling world is watching. The fans are invested. And Roman Reigns just raised the bar for what intense, personal, emotional promos can be in modern WWE. Now let's see if the company can match his energy and deliver a conclusion worthy of this incredible beginning. If you made it through this entire video dissecting every aspect of Roman's promo, you're absolutely incredible, and I need you to do 3 crucial things right now. First, smash the like button if Roman's promo gave you chills and made you realize we're witnessing something special in this feud. Second, leave a detailed comment sharing your reaction to Roman's promises. Was this too dark? Not dark enough? What should happen next? How should Drew respond? I want to hear every opinion and theory. And third, subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter and hit that notification bell because this Roman vs. Drew feud is about to explode, and I'll be breaking down every promo, every development, every moment as we build toward what could be the most brutal match in WWE history. This is must-watch wrestling storytelling, and you don't want to miss a second of where this is heading.